This video will now outline how to find a value of the whole when given a percentage of that whole. So for instance, if you're given a surface, and let's say the length of the surface is 45 centimeters. So our whole surface has a length of 45 centimeters, and let's say the object, or in this case a beetle, traveled 39.8% of that surface. How do you find out the distance that your beetle traveled? I'm going to outline a couple different ways that you can use to find that value. First of all, you're essentially working in equivalent fractions. So if you're using a fraction method, then you're saying your beetle traveled 39.8% or per 100 of your distance. So this is how far your beetle traveled. Your beetle traveled 39.8 for every 100 centimeters. You want to find out what distance that proportion or fraction represents when the whole is not actually out of 100 but out of 45. So you're using equivalent fractions here. In this strategy, and it's not the one I would recommend you use because you can make it a little simpler. You're thinking to go from a whole now of 100 to 45, what am I doing to each side, or what am I dividing each side by as I'm getting smaller here? And you could think fact families. Well, 100 divided by 45 is 2.22. So 100, therefore, divided by 2.22 would equal 45. And whatever you do to one side, you must do to the rest. So I can take that value that says 39.8. Turn the light off there so you're not getting that glare. 39.8 divided by 2.222, and we get 17.91, and we could call it 17.9. So we're saying the beetle traveled 17.9 centimeters out of the 45 total possible centimeters. And a simpler way to do this, especially if you're not using a calculator, this would be very important if you're not using a calculator. Let's make this a little simpler. We're going to work in equivalent fractions. We know we want to get our whole distance is not out of 100. In fact, it's out of 45. So one way to get there would be to simplify this. We can divide by 10. Now we get the denominator out of 10. That's 3.98. And then we can go from 10 to our target of 45 by multiplying each side by 4.5. And it's not so difficult if you're not using a calculator to multiply 3.98 times 4.5. You're going to see that same answer, 17.91. So we can say your beetle traveled 17.9 centimeters. And if this was a real world problem, we would recognize that there was rounding that happened, so we would really say 18 centimeters, and that would be the most accurate measurement. So that's how you can find, that's one strategy, using equivalent fractions. Another strategy would be that T-chart model and recognizing what the value of the whole is. So in this case, 100% of the distance would be a distance of 45 centimeters. Our target is to find out what 39.8% is. Well, it's really difficult to go from 100 to 39.8, and I'm not even going to try. But I could go from 100 to 10%. 10% would be 4.5 centimeters. And then I could go from 10 to 39.8, or better yet, I could find out what 1% is. 1% would be 0.45 centimeters. And now it's really simple to go from 1% to 39.8%. We just multiply by 39.8. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the rest. And I would do 0.45 times 39.8. And what do I get? 17.91. So our distance would be like 17.9 centimeters. Once again, in real world, we would assume that group got about 18 centimeters. Both strategies are perfectly acceptable. I want you to be able to see it both ways, as it might be helpful to switch between strategies to solve certain problems. So hopefully you feel comfortable with this method.